Hello, this is Roland. Welcome. Yesterday I began talking about tension, and I said that one of the big causes of tension is the fact that we're reacting to the outside. Things make us nervous, tense, anxious, irritated, and the tension that you see is, or feel, is the obvious tension. But bear in mind that the tension goes deep into your muscles and nerves and tissues, has all kinds of effects. Why are we tense? We're tense because you react to something on the outside. And that reaction then results in emotion, feelings. And those feelings then drive thoughts. Now, what are the thoughts? Well, there are a lot of things, but for sure they're how to get out of it. The thought is some kind of anticipation. The thought is about getting out of getting away, escaping, or relieving the stress. Okay, and so you think about that. Think about it. Now, a lot of the things of life you can't do anything about. You can't do anything about a traffic jam. You can't do anything about other people, the way they look at you, or what they do, or what they say, or what happens in the neighborhood. There's very little you have any control over, actually. Except you do have control over your reaction and your emotions, but you've lost control over your reaction and your emotions. You've lost control. And I'll go into that in just a moment. So there you are, tense, anxious, nervous, irritated, angry, whatever. And then other emotions come in too, emotions like things like frustration and unhappiness and misery and bitterness and regret and frustration and all these other emotions come in, and they drive thoughts because a lot of the things you can't do anything about. Okay? So emotions activate the mind, the brain, and the brain starts whirling and whirling and whirling to try to figure some way out. And you know what that leads to? It leads to all kinds of negative thoughts. Thoughts of escaping and quitting and giving up or being angry and yelling and screaming or getting even or revenge or all these. See, and it goes to greater and greater extremes in your thoughts. Well, things that you think of, you can't do them, a lot of them. So then you just sit there with all of these emotions churning and these thoughts. No wonder you become tense, see? Now, wouldn't it be better not to become irritated? Wouldn't it be better not to react in the first place? Well, it would be, but what's happened is you've lost control. When I say you, I'm talking about the average person has lost control of his or her body. And thoughts. See, think about those thoughts. Where do all those negative thoughts come from? Did you think of them? Do you want to have those negative thoughts? And if they're your thoughts, why can't you control them at will? Why can't you stop them at will? See? They come in somehow from the outside. They come in an emotional climate. They come in a negative emotional climate. They come in as a result of reacting, becoming angry or resentful or irritated or something. And then those negative thoughts are fed by the emotions, and the emotions feed the thoughts. See? Well, okay, so wouldn't it be better not to react in the first place? Well, you must regain control of that moment. That moment, once the whole process starts, it tends to go on and on to some sort of a conclusion. Or the conclusion where you get upset and pound your fist on the steering wheel, or you get angry and yell at somebody or say the wrong thing, or you get so frustrated that you throw in the towel. See, or you get so upset that you start taking drugs or smoking marijuana or alcohol or something. See, or you just push it, or then you push it all into the carpet and distract yourself with something else and see, but then it's still there. And the memory is there. Now, the other reason why we get so tense and nervous is, and I don't want to lose track of the main thought, and that is that you've lost control of your body and your thinking. See, because you react, emotions arise, and then the emotions drive thoughts, and negativity comes in from the outside. Then you end up having more symptoms that go beyond just being tense and nervous. Headaches, tummy aches, all kinds of things. Possibly even things like inflammation, maybe the result of long-term chronic, irritation. Well, okay, so then the other thing is that the memory of that event, that unfinished business, that negative event that you reacted to is there. So the next time you encounter the same situation or a similar one, or someone that looks like the person you reacted to, or the sounds or smells or sights or colors of like the situation in which you reacted, your body starts reacting. See? It spreads, it starts reacting. So pretty soon everything makes you tense, nervous, because everything eventually is somehow connected. It's all combined and intertwined and enmeshed and connected to these original traumatic events. And that's what it is. When you react to something on the outside, it's a trauma. Maybe it's a mini trauma, but it's a trauma. Now, how did you lose control of your own body and on your emotions? How did you lose emotional control and then control over your thoughts? How did that happen? What happened, like I said, because you reacted. But why did you react? It's because you were pulled from your center. See, you need to find a way to step back, to be the observer, to stand back and watch, instead of being involved in what's happening. You need to have mental distance. You need objectivity. See? Which you understand. Look, let me just keep it really simple and give some simple examples before I go on to the spiritual level. You know that, for example, at work, when customers or clients bring problems, or it's part of your job to go solve problems. One customer has clogged pipes, another one has a leaky faucet, another one has some wiring issue in their house, another one needs help with some software project. I'm just making things up. So they've got issues, so you go and solve the issue. And you don't become upset because it's their issue. See, it's not your issue. So you don't become upset, you don't become angry, you don't become nervous, you don't become irritable. See? You just do your job. And when customers bring issues, well, you deal with it objectively. You deal with it rationally, reasonably, professionally. Okay? Well, that's the way you should deal with all of life. But you don't, do you? Especially when it comes to events that happen at home with your wife and your husband, your kids, your mom, your dad, your neighbor. See? Then what happens? You react emotionally, don't you? Instead of being calm and objective, you become emotional. So now you see how that happens? So how does it happen that you become emotional? Well, you haven't learned the secret of standing back. You had it a little bit when you were a little child. You lost it. You lost it when you became emotionalized, when you became upset, when you became angry, and when you became resentful. See, the proper authority of the soul. See, you have a soul and a mind and a body. And the proper authority for the soul is your Creator. That's right, your Creator. It's the proper authority for your soul. And then your soul obedient to and linked to the Creator. See? The idea, for example, in the Eastern traditions, you hear about detachment, like the Buddhists talk about detachment. Well, that's very good. And I think Buddha originally was very close to being onto something. He may even have been onto it. Okay? But somehow it's been lost. See? It's been lost. So it is correct that you need to detach from the world. But then you have to attach to something else. And what the other thing is that you need to attach to is your Creator. Okay, so it needs for the soul to recognize that it needs, how can I say this? The soul needs to see that it's messing up and not resent seeing that it's messing up. See, if you're angry at people, if you're irritated, if you're resentful, you're failing. You're messing up. Your kids know it when you're angry with them. They know it. Your wife, your husband, your partner, when you resent them, they see you're failing. Other people see it. So maybe you hide it. You try to hide it, but they still see it anyway. But you hide it maybe from others. Okay? Maybe they see it, maybe they don't. But nevertheless, you are resentful. You are angry. You are, see? And so you are reacting. And so what that means is that you are not obeying your Creator. You're being disobedient. You're being disloyal. See? What did Christ say about this sort of thing? They said, what are the greatest of, well, he said the greatest of the laws are love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? And he also said, put first the kingdom of God and his right way, and all other things will be added unto you. So first you find your Creator. Then you find the instructions. See, right now your ego thinks it has to make its own purpose for life. Create its own purpose. So you have your goals and this and that. See? Well, the soul eventually has to see that there's a higher purpose. The Creator's purpose. You have to be willing to do the Creator's purpose, which is a greater purpose than you. See? And when you desire to do His will, and His will becomes your will, okay? And you receive your instructions, your marching orders, see? At work, see? Remember the hierarchy? What do they call that? It's not unity of command. And I forget, there's two terms, but it's basically, remember when if you ever studied management? In other words, everybody has a boss, and everybody has one boss. That's the basic idea. I know you have group things and so on, but basically it's everybody has a boss, and everybody has one boss. So there's a hierarchy, so you have a boss. And you have to get approval. You have to get instructions from your boss as to what to do. Okay? And if he delegates or she delegates to you, then that's the instruction. So then you are delegated to, but you're still following the instructions. You see what I mean? And then as you proceed, even if you've been delegated to do things, you still have to file a report once in a while or update your boss on what's happening. You see? So you get instructions from your boss, or the soul should get instructions from the boss. See? Now if you got instructions from the boss and you followed the instructions, why, you wouldn't have any more conflict, because you'd be doing what you're supposed to be doing. Now, how do you get instructions from God? How do you get instruction from God? This is very important. See, it's very important. I'm keeping this particular little lecture lighthearted and kind of fun, kind of simple, but now I'm struck upon something that's extremely important, that you need to see. How do you get instructions from your Creator? You get them intuitively, wordlessly. It's called intuition. It's called gut level, knowing. See, that's how you get your instructions, wordlessly. It's a wordless language. It's a wordless word. See? Anything on the outside, anything that's written down, or even if it's a wonderful book of some sort, it's secondhand. See? And the people who wrote that, well, they may have been inspired from within, from God. He instructed them to write, and then they wrote, and they were inspired, and they did what He said, wrote what He said. So it was very nice. But for you, it's secondhand. But if you read what they wrote, and what they wrote is true and inspired, then sometimes there will be an internal testimony. The wordless word within. Your intuition, somehow inside, you'll know that what you're reading on the outside is true. See? So it's the inner testimony that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. The outside words from people, written words, spoken words, and so on, all they can do is, at most, all they can do is awaken you, okay, to the inner. And then from the inner, there's the testimony from within. You just sort of sense wordlessly that what's being said is true. Okay? So you have to find the inner. You have to find the inner link with your Creator. And it's intuition. And so how do you do that? Well, you have to become still. You have to become still. God said through his prophet, he said, "Be still and know that I am God." Okay? So when you are still and you know that he is God, then you'll know that you're not God. What most of us do is we run around and play God. See? So you have to see that there's a purpose greater, there's a truth greater than you, a purpose greater than you. There's something greater than you and your ego. It's very comforting. See? Now people who are tremendous egotists, they don't like that. See? But for some of us, we love it. It's like when you were a little child and Daddy was home. Okay? You were kind of nervous Daddy was late. Where's Daddy? Something happened. He's not here. He's not here. And then finally you hear the car in the driveway or the garage and Daddy's home. And you rush to Daddy and he picks you up and gives you a big hug. Daddy's home. So now you feel okay. Or you're in bed at night and Daddy had to work late or something and he's not home and he's not home. And then finally you hear the sound of the car and the door opens. Daddy's home. And Daddy comes to your room. There's Daddy. And he tucks you in and says good night. See how comforting that is? Okay, well, it's something like that. Okay. Well, all right, so now you got the idea. So what's happened then? Now do you see why you're reacting to everything on the outside? It's because you're disconnected from your Creator. See, you're not close to your intuition. You don't know how to find it. You don't know how to live from it. You don't know how to get your wordless instructions. So you're kind of like this ego drifting around and huffing and puffing and reacting and trying to struggle with everything on your own. See, I read a beautiful analogy today from a very wise man. Very, very wise man. He said, well, yes, he said, people, they say you're the captain of your ship, right? You're the captain of your soul. Well, you may be the captain of your body and your mind. You may be the captain. Okay? But even the captain has a boss. So you're the captain, but you're disconnected from the boss. So there you are, floating around on the seas, not knowing where to go. So you try to make your own route, but you need to have instructions. It's a beautiful thing to have instructions. Okay? It's very nice. It's very comforting. Those of you who, when you go to work, lower level authorities appreciate direction. They want direction. They want somebody to tell them what to do and when to do it and how to do it. Then when the employees become more senior employees or some level of management, or they've been around a while, well, then they appreciate delegation. Where the boss assigns the results he or she expects, and then designs a follow-up system so he can inspect what he expects. So he delegates to you, or she delegates to you, and you kind of like that, but you're still getting instructions. So the instructions are very simple. The lower down you go, the simpler they are, just like for your body. At the very lowest level, where the nerves and nerve cell fires, it either fires or it doesn't fire. It's either on or it's off. It's like a computer. At the very basic level, very simple. But then it becomes more and more and more complex. Well, now for you as a human being with a soul, okay, you're the pinnacle of creation. God created the human as the pinnacle of creation. He made you from the dust, and you rose up from the dust, and then you, this being created from dust, is capable of knowing Him. and loving Him. See, cats and dogs and deer and so on, they're very cute to watch, but they can't know God. You can, okay? But you don't. Well, sure, some people, they go to services and they read the book and they know about God. See, a lot of people know about God, but they don't know God. It's a big difference. It's the difference between knowing about the sun and actually experiencing the warmth of the sun, you see? Well, I think you got the idea. So you need to find how to connect, detach from the world by attaching to something else. What you want to attach to is the inner light from your Creator. And it's very simple. You don't have to have, there's no theology involved or study or having to figure things out or anything. It's very simple. Remember, be still. So you go in a room, close the door, sit in a chair, okay, and close your eyes and look at the little pixels of light on the inside of your eyelids, little particles of light, little patterns of light, okay? It's like a warm glow, or little patterns, little pixels of light on the inside of your eyelids. So you look at those, and at the same time you become aware of your hand, or your hands, okay? Either your hand or both hands. You become aware of your hand, and eventually your hand will begin to feel a little bit tingly. As I'm sitting here right now, I'm aware of my hand, okay, resting quietly on the arm of my chair. I'm aware of my hand, and it feels a little bit tingly. Eventually, a little tingly warm, very mild tingly, mild tingle, mild warm. And then you watch the little pixels on the inside of your eyelids, and you're aware of your hand. So now you're still, you're in the moment, you're in reality, you're in the present, you're not lost in the dark theater of your mind. And that's where your ability to attach to the inner light from God, where you receive wordless understanding from Him. And this light extends through your body. It's very good. It's very good for you. Okay? So I encourage you to try the little meditation, if you will. Give it a try. See if it'll work for you. If you're ready, and if you're willing to know the truth, and even if you find out some your own that you're messing up, okay, but you won't mind because it's the truth. Okay. So, I hope you enjoyed today's little lecture. My name is Roland.